Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Okay, in this lecture we are going to start covering some more details on the tools such as Gantt charts, and if we look at the learning objectives here, I will cover a little bit on the history of the Gantt chart, how you represent it, alternative representations, how we can use the Gantt chart for monitoring, and we will do a little bit of an exercise, and then I will demo a spreadsheet which we can use to be able to do simple Gantt charts. Now when you go into the history, although it is called a Gantt chart, it was actually, there is evidence that this form of a chart was originally used by a Polish engineer, and he was actually in steel, in the steel works, and he used what you see here. It's called a Adamniki harmoniograph. So it is almost like a musical score, which the difference here is you can see the bars are coming down vertically as opposed to what Gantt designed later on. So it was only around 1910 that Henry Gantt actually came out with this with what we use today as called the Gantt or the bar chart, and obviously what came out of Eastern Europe was not in English, so the English speaking world didn't take up to it, and what Gantt came up was in English, and so we associate this chart with the Gantt chart. And interestingly, you will find that Gantt was associated with Frederick Taylor. So he had worked for some time with Frederick Taylor, went into this principles of scientific management, and so at that stage it was kind of an era when factories and production places were looking at scientific ways of doing management, and Gantt was one of these people who came out with what we know as the Gantt chart. Now incidentally, it was very popular for production purposes in World War I. It was being used for planning the Hoover Dam, the interstate highways in the US. It got really popular because of its simplicity. Now there is also evidence that the Germans used a similar chart. So what you see here on the right is a chart that is used for bridge construction in Germany. So while the world knows it as a Gantt chart, there is evidence that this is a common sense based approach which was used by quite a few engineering managers in the past. And I recommend you read the reference given below. It gives you a history of the Gantt chart, refers into more detail on what is covered on the slide, and it also gives you access to the original books by Gantt on how he developed the chart and what its purposes were. And these are now out of copyright, so it is public domain, and you can actually see how some of the management thinkers at that stage were trying to optimize production. Now when we actually get into the representation of the Gantt chart, you are familiar with this in some form or the other. It does not need a lot of explanation, but just look at the simplicity. Okay, we had activities which are listed here. Okay, on the left of the chart there is activities, and on the top it is just time. Now you remember last class what was our objective? What was the objective of the earlier lecture? Work breakdown structure. What did the work breakdown structure do?
So basically you recognize all the activities that are involved in
the So the work, by using the work breakdown structure, we want to be able to identify the activities, and once we identify these activities we can actually we are supposed to be able to list it down here. So we assume that some kind of activity identification exercise has taken place before the bar chart is made to list the activities. On the time axis here we have days, and we have not actually covered the topic of how do we estimate duration of an activity. So that will come in the next lecture, but this is also important. So we need two inputs, right? What are the inputs we need to draw a bar chart? Activities and time, start time and duration. So we have the activities which we got from work breakdown structure or some other means. We need to know when the activity is going to start, and we need to know the duration of the activity. So with that you can actually draw this, you can easily see that, right. Now obviously just drawing bars on a graph is one thing, but making it meaningful in the context of the project you are trying to do is really the key question here. And as we get into the exercises later, you will find that when you have to put the bar into, where are you going to actually place the bar, that is going to be some of the key questions. Now if we look at what are the aspects that the bar chart shows you, you can see one is certainly what the various activities are, when an activity begins and ends, how long each activity is scheduled to last. So these we have discussed before. So I can get more information. I can go to a particular day, say like day 12, and see what are the activities that are to be performed on that day. Okay, so now I am not going from an activity side, I am going on a day side and finding what should be the activities that are performed. I can find what activity overlaps with what, and the last part I can find when what is the duration of the project. So this project takes 25 days, what is the actual duration of the whole project. So this is all basic planning information, and you can see that most of these are obviously related to time. Okay, any questions? Now there are different forms of a bar chart. So this is a sample of a milestone chart. So here you find there are no bars actually, but you have the same concept. You have time on the x axis, you have activities, and you are just placing points on when an activity should be completed, or how much can activity can be, what is the most you can extend an activity. So this is kind of a milestone chart which is very popular. Typically when we go back to the levels of scheduling, if you take the highest level of scheduling, it is more of a milestone chart. Now another form of the bar chart, it need not be continuous. You can see here that we have continuous A and B. Now I have in the second graph here, in the second bar chart here, what is represented? Discontinuous activity. So what is constant in both?
Duration, total time.
The total would you call that duration?
The total time
involved.
The total working time is the same. So in A it's 3 days, okay, and you can see that here 1, 2, 3 days. So the effort put for this activity A is the same. The effort put for activity here is for B is 5 days, and here we have split it up. So there is no reason a bar chart has to be continuous as it's shown here. We can also split up the effort in a duration for the activity, because that's what often happens. So for example, A could be done by a person who is not available on day 3, 4 and 5, which means you need the flexibility to represent it in a non-continuous form. Okay, so do keep this also in mind, that you will be your bar chart does not need to have a continuous representation. Now another unique aspect, or a very convenient aspect of a bar chart is the fact that you can use it for progress monitoring. So here you can see that we have the regular bar chart which is continuous, and this is the plan, and as progress is made you can start shading the bar and show where am I. So here I might be on a particular time period and how much of progress has been made. Okay, so this is either you can shade in the bar, or you can show a parallel bar to it and see how much of it is completed. Now in some of these cases it becomes tricky to say what do we mean by progress. Okay, so this we will take up this question later as to how do we define progress and what do we mean by progress. We will take this up to some extent in this class, but certainly a lot more when we take up project monitoring module of this course. So here is another way in which monitoring is done, where you have the bar chart here, you have the progress chart, okay, the green shows the progress made. Now what we have here is a line showing the day on which the current day, okay, and what is shown in red here, it could be something like cost. How is the cost of the project varying with respect to time? Okay, so we have we will plot a graph like this, okay, to show you how this happens. We will plot a graph like this, and what is shown, what do you think the green line here is?
The estimated cost probably.
Red is estimated cost, actual cost.
Yes, the red is the planned or the estimated cost. So it's the cash flow for the estimate.